Welcome to episode 65 of Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling. And now a return to the regularly scheduled wacky programming on this edition of the show. My name is William Fizzpatrick, and once again, hi folks! Know that April Fool's stream was not a one-off. Wacky World is back on its regular time slot of 8 p.m. EST time for another edition of Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling. Return to the regularly scheduled Wacky. So, folks, thank you for tuning in to yesterday's stream. We've already had about 14 viewers or so on this particular edition of the show, and wow. I'm really glad I managed to get the rust and the jitters off before I went and did this particular show, because this is going to cover at least 3 indie shows, plus also a few other segments of random bits of professional wrestling, because I'm not alone today on this edition of the broadcast. You might remember him from a Take a Katana to the Thanksgiving Turkey and one other show that we did on Series 2 of Wacky World of Wrestling. Yes. He's back. One of the 2 people who convinced me, hey, Fizz, want to sign up for a Discord account so you can actually do audio mic work on the on podcasting again? Yes. So, hailing all the way from Kyoto, Japan, it's MDS, or Mr. Dr. Senju. Take it away, buddy.
Morning. Excuse me while I take a sip of my tea. Okay. Good morning. To put it succinctly, in a way, technically speaking, I did take a listen to your podcast, and I don't want to take 100% credit, but I do think Taker was the one who actually told you to get a Discord. I was just like, well, Discord is a little bit of a better option if you wanted to. A better and easier option, just because you can actually just set up your own server. But still, I think 100% credit has to be given to the old man rather than to me. I was just subtly encouraging or just subtly adding my opinion on it. I think it's a good idea. That's it. That's all I did.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, thank you very much for inviting me at like 9 in the morning.
Yes, it is 9 in the morning Japan time over in the land of the rising sun for Senju, while he is currently barricaded, has put all of his preventions together for the sumo samurai warriors that may end up bursting through his door. Because, folks, once again, it is the end of the basho. You might be recalling sumo wrestling bashos. Wacky World of Wrestling used to cover wacky sumo wrestling bashos until they became so indefinitely crazy that both me and my former co-host, Sal Kuzumato, had to literally invest in sumo wrestling bunkers, lest the sumo wrestlers eat us. Although, considering how the basho went this particular time, Ichinojo, also known as Snorlax, for those of you unaware, is probably eating the Koko Geekon at this point, not just because of his losing score in the last basho, but also because of the fact that the Natural Sumo Association narrative that Chairman Hakaku cooked up, once again, has fallen apart, as usual.
Of course.
So in sumo news, let's start off briefly with some sumo news here. Hakaku now no longer has any Yokozuna right now, and the one Yokozuna he has a bad knee and is out until at least July. Hakuho had to withdraw from day 3 of the March Basho, which from a knee injury, and Kakuryu had to retire. So we have now 4 Ozeki gunning for a Yokozuna position: Takakeisho, Shodai, Asanayama, and of course, the great terror, Tenor no Fuji, who recently won the March Basho. In what I have dubbed the Tenor Fuji Revenge Tour is in full swing, and he is currently rampaging across the Japanese countryside holding up his Emperor's Cup and saying, "I have done it! I have ruined your narratives, Chairman Hakaku. I humbly accept my role as Ozeki again, and I will decimate the sumo world."
Well, he can't. Well, he can't stop Fuji there, considering the fact that he's now Ozeki finally after being demoted, and now he's clawed back into the Ozeki promotion back again. So you can't really stop him from doing whatever it is that's going on.
Tenro Fuji is currently gunning for
And
Yokozuna.
is going.
Yeah. Ichinojo is eating the building still.
Probably out of frustration or probably out of disappointment. I'm guessing it's just disappointment rather than frustration, but yeah. But I digress.
I mean, obviously, Chairman Hakaku is standing on top of the Kokugikan roof screaming, "Fujin Raijin, please strike me down, because the narrative has ruined again. The beautiful Sumo Association narrative. It was supposed to be Hakuho and Takakeisho and a changing of the guard, and instead we have Shodai, one leg to Sawanoyama, and him."
Him. Well, this is what happens, right? Whenever your whenever your top names are out, basically it just makes an opportunity for the young talents to climb up. And considering the fact that sumo isn't really built like what was it again? Sumo's hierarchy, or how do you move up the ranks, isn't relatively normal. It's far more traditional. Once you go up, you're gonna stay up for a long time, and once you get into a position, you're gonna stay there for quite a while, because the top guys won't move anywhere unless there's an injury, or they had to pull out, or they had prior engagements or something that they did that allows them to either be disqualified or have their title of Yokozuna removed and whatnot. So, and yeah, that's what happened to Teruno Fuji when he got demoted, and now he's clawed back into Ozeki, and he's gonna gun for revenge. That big ass monster is gonna do it again. I'm not gonna be surprised if he actually made it to Yokozuna. Congratulations to him if he does. So.
Well, he's already made the requirement of winning a tournament. He's probably going to have to win at least 2 more tournaments to get the Yokozuna rank. I mean, he's in a better position right now than, say, the ultimate choke artist, who pulled the ultimate slipatoshi with a 2-basho lead, Takayatsu.
Oh, okay.
I mean, literally, he had a 2-basho lead going into the final week of the tournament, and he literally slips into a giant salt pile and causes the entire Kokugikan on one side to collapse. Ichinojo is upset because the salt has ruined any chance of him eating that part of the building.
It's going to be funny. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Takayatsu, former Ozeki himself, looked like he was going to win the Yusho for March and save Chairman Hakaku's narrative of, of at least somebody from one of the proud stables, winning this basho. And instead, Takayatsu slips against the sumo equivalent of jobbers in the final week, culminating in facing off against Bulgaria's next top model and being defeated by Aoyama. Bulgaria's next top supermodel, Aoyama beat Takayatsu. The lime green jade wall actually finished in second in place with an 11-4 record. I hate being right jar is filling up with coins, because I thought that Aoyama would have himself a sleeper basho where he would be able to climb up to the tops of the sumo ranking because of his rank being relatively low, and that's exactly what happened.
Yep. But then again, that's either unsurprisingly surprising or surprisingly unsurprising. Take that as you will, considering the fact that, JSA, you tried to kind of fix the whole narrative again, but you do know that sometimes the gods don't favor that.
Yes, the sumo gods do not care.
The sumo gods do not care. I mean, if over here you can actually have some ritual of that involves a sumo where one guy only one sumo wrestler is wrestling a nothing air basically, so that you have a township or a prefecture will get good harvest the coming year. You know that the gods are there and sumo gods do exist. And the sumo gods do not favor this. Maybe you should think of basically putting up a ritual where you tell Hakuho to go and wrestle air. Whoever wins, if God wins, good tidings befall JSA, and if Hakuho wins, well, bad tidings befall JSA.
So the May tournament is going to go on as scheduled at the Kokugikan.
Yes.
Ichinojo hasn't eaten it all up with his spork. The deadliest weapon of the sumo wrestler. It's not chopsticks, it's a spork.
Yes.
A giant one that also serves
People
as
might
a
be
giant
surprised.
sword.
For a sumo wrestler, it's not the sword, it's not the knife, it's just the remote control. It's just a remote control. Don't worry. But yeah, it's going to basically it's going to be happening at May 19th up to May 23rd. Basically, the first day is going to be on May 9th. The whole ranking is going to be announced on April 26th, which is this month, basically at the tail end of this month. So, and again, it's going to happen at Ryogoku Kokugikan. So, as per usual, because where else would you do something as big and as wildly traditionalistic as this one? And wow, the Kokugikan is actually quite wow.
So, yeah, they're going to do it in May. But also, interestingly, they are going to go to Nagoya in July because of the Olympics that are supposedly still happening, but apparently they need the Kokugikan building for the boxing exhibitions at the Olympics.
Yeah. Yep, correct. That's basically what they're doing, basically. And for the most part, I guess the Japanese, and this is to a whole, basically, the Japan government has little to no reason to actually just call the Olympics off, because they already know that if they call it off, they're gonna lose a lot of financial economic boon about it. They've spent like millions and billions of dollars of yen, basically, totaling about I don't know how many yen or how many dollars, basically, if you want to convert that, but still. And then you have sponsors that they get who may or may not be pissed off if they call it off and would sue, basically, would file a class action lawsuit or anything for that matter, or something along the lines of that too. So, and then again, another financial loss for them, because technically speaking, the last time Japan did the Olympics or any kind of world event, basically, a world sporting event, to be fair, a lot of what was it again? A lot of technological improvements were introduced or shown. The birth of the Shinkansen was actually from a world sporting event that was held in Japan. Afterwards, they not only developed but only just technically enhanced the whole thing. And this year they were planning on doing the 5G, introducing the 5G, and what was it again? Having a automated driving system, I guess, if I remember correctly, for touring the bus, for letting the bus that carries the athletes to and fro be automated, be fully automated, of course. But yeah, if it doesn't happen, well, Japan is in a whole lot of trouble if that doesn't happen.
Automatic driving system. That sounds like something out of a cyberpunk anime. And I know how those go. I know how those go.
Yeah, in a way, but still, it's. I'm personally speaking. On one hand, I'm not against the idea of holding the Olympics still. Because yes, it's gonna be a national boon basically. But on the other hand, it's going to be a loss anyways because uh, the financial profit of it coming into the Olympics being run now, it's going to be a little bit of a loss because not many people are going to watch. And then I think the Japan government is not going to allow foreign audiences to to fly over unless they are 100% vaccinated or not. Haven't really known the full uh, basically the full agreement or basically the full statement, basically based on what. But there are some talks saying that that's going to happen. There's not going to be a lot of in-house uh, in-house supporters or audiences in the arena. Basically, they're going to limit it at one point in time again, which will cause a couple of losses as well. But again, not much to say to that. But yeah.
I mean, right now they're in a complicated situation with the Japanese Olympics, and
Yes.
speaking of complicated situations, as far as you were talking about the whole, things and infrastructure is kind of collapsing in on itself. Senju, can you explain to me what the heck is going on with New Japan at the moment?
I I got no idea. For what it's worth, basically, for what it's worth, they're trying to basically New Japan is trying to elevate the name Kota Ibushi a lot more. Basically, well, ascend to godhood is literally what Ibushi was thinking about, and well, after he has after he has both the titles, he decides to unite it, to combine it into one. Well, interesting title. Interesting title belt because
it looks like the kind of title that you put on a tokusatsu robot.
That's my second thought. My first thought was that looks like a belt that one of the old school tokusatsu show villains wear, basically. So.
I, Kenta Ibushi, Master and God of New Japan Pro Wrestling, am here to challenge all of you. Kamen Rider, Power Rangers, obscure 1970s, 50s to 60s tokusatsu heroes. I challenge you all to a zero-G gravity match on the moon.
If they can actually go to a match on the moon, but okay. Basically, what happened was that New Japan Pro Wrestling officially unveiled the new IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Yes, they unveiled the belt and gave it a new name. Well, technically speaking, they just added like one word into the IWGP Heavyweight Championship name, just adding the word "world" into it. And they officially retired both the IWGP Heavyweight and the IWGP Intercontinental Championship process. And well, he was promptly handed the title, Kota Ibushi, of course, and will make his first defense of the new belt at Sakura Genesis on April 4th against a name that Fizz will definitely like, and I say this sarcastically as possible. New Japan Cup winner, 2021 New Japan Cup winner, Mr. Will Ospreay.
Senju, I'm going to sing here for a little bit. Just giving you a warning. It's a shameful thing, ostrich head, you octo-cuttered your girlfriend. You made a tasteless angle tonight. You're now facing off against the godhood tonight. For those of you who are unaware, I have a very low opinion of dear ostrich head Will Ospreay, one of the many annoying cruiserweight British wrestlers that I saw on the TV waves over the last few years, and wondering just what in the heck was anybody thinking pushing this guy? Did they think he was Big Daddy? Did they think he was Kendo Nagasaki? Did they think he was Giant Haystacks? Well, he basically is a skinny version of Giant Haystacks, except Haystacks was less ugly than he is. Okay, you
Okay.
did a horrifically bad domestic violence angle during a time in which Japan's domestic violence rating, and I looked this up on the
Mhm,
Twitterverse, and I'm
mhm.
uh, cross-referencing this information. Japan's domestic violence rating went up because of this pandemic.
Yes, correct.
So it's in incredibly bad taste to be doing this kind of angle, and you know, ah, I just don't know who thought this was a good idea. Did Osprey badger Gendo so badly he goes, okay, okay, Gaijin, we will do this crazy, stupid angle where you want to octo-cutter your girlfriend and basically proclaim, I'm more obsessed with the championship belt than my girlfriend. And I'm like, Osprey, if you're that obsessed with the belt, I'm pretty certain that there are many shops in Japan that sell IWGP World Heavyweight Championship body pillows.
Oh. I was just about I was just about to suggest I was just about to suggest that maybe Will Ospreay should drop by the WWE shop and uh promote basically just find a basically the defunct WWE Divas Championship for sale perhaps. Maybe he can actually find a compromise for that too. Just it's the new NJPW belt. Can I have it? Can I take it and show it to my girlfriend? Ta-da! I mean, generally speaking, on one end, the things that are making a lot of people talk is that uh, while many of the designs have been widely praised by fans for the belt design, this one didn't really receive the same reaction. A lot of people compare it to the WWE Divas Championship. One section of the internet claimed that they can't unsee it because now they have made a comparison to Cody's horrible, horrible tattoo on his neck. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Although me personally, I said, well, basically, me personally, I said that. What was it again? It looked like they were trying to match the old winged eagle design of the old NWA belt or WWE. I forget which one.
WWF bout mixed with the JWA World All Asia Championship.
Yes, okay. They were trying to combine those two into one, but
Mm-hmm.
your mileage may vary because generally speaking, I don't really mind the idea of combining the what was it again? Combining the belts together. Nor do I mind what was it again? Him holding the two titles still, because
Mm-hmm.
on on a kind of like on a similar situation, you have El Desperado himself, who is the current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship, and one half of the current IWGP Junior Tag Teams say that it's not really a big deal being a double champion or holding two belts at the same time. Basically, it's not really a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's just basically just uh, it's a stepping stone to something greater. Basically, he's just making his name, and Kota Ibushi is making a name for himself. And considering the fact that it has been a long time coming for the man, especially after the dominance of the names like Okada, Tanahashi, and well, some foreign uh, some foreign athletes that sometimes can be named. One of them being was again, and I quote, uh, Kenny Olivier, I think. So there's one too. But yeah,
That Mega Man obsessed fool who was previously the
yeah,
IWGP Heavyweight Champion.
yeah. On one section of the internet, one called him Twinkle Toes McFingerbang. So,
Mm-hmm.
so there you go. But still, yeah, it's been a long time coming. But I don't know whether this is an NJPW decision or Kota Ibushi saying that I want to change the belt. I want to combine the belt into one.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea. It feels as if kind of like a John Cena influencing the U.S. title belt change, and the WWE Championship title belt change as well. In a way, it does feel similar to this, but I can't put a finger as to who decides in the end. Either Kota Ibushi or Jado Ngedo or the higher ups in NJPW or someone at Bushiroad telling NJPW to, okay, change the belt.
Because we know Seto Kaiba is very capable of that sort of thing.
Yes, exactly.
Takashi Kidanane is the president of Bushiroad, who also founded Broccoli, a manga printing company in Japan, and was also involved in a former banking company in Japan, as we found out, that went bankrupt in 1999. as the U.S. representative of it. So Kidanane and his U.S. ventures have not exactly gone very well. New Japan's actually losing momentum right now with the American audience, and the Japanese audience is just scratching their head going, what are you doing?
Yes.
Because that's your reaction right now, isn't it?
Yes. What is the company doing? Yes. Of course. It's just for me. It's more of a curious question, and what are they doing basically? Because let's be frank here, shall we? Then Bushiroad is basically Bushiroad is generally an entertainment company, but they are mainly focused on collectible card games, trading cards, publisher of mobile apps and games, promotional items, and that's pretty much it. What was it again? New Japan Pro Wrestling, and in the same bubble and under the same umbrella, World Wondering Stardom is just a kind of like, what was it again? It's just an acquisition that they have, basically. One of the assets that they have. They can just easily drop it if they feel like it's not profitable. Because they're already making huge profits with gamings and Setokai, and ironically speaking, Setokai being the head of it.
We do not use the name Seto Kaiba unironically, us here at Wacky World of Wrestling. He's actually legitimately is basically Seto Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yes, unironically and ironically speaking. It's just that it's unfortunate that Bushiroad isn't really holding the rights to Yu-Gi-Oh! Collectible trading card games. Then you have a really, really great parallel there. Aha! Seto Kaiba, the president, now owns Seto Kaiba, the card. But yeah, basically.
I mean, he's been trying to play wrestling like a collectible card game. Aha! Khan of the Tony and Vince of the McMahon, you have activated my trap card.
Yeah. Technically speaking, yes. But yeah, technically speaking, it is something like that. Yes. What was it again? Basically, the entertainment company is basically just an entertainment company. It is 100% a business. If something like NJPW or Stardom, for that matter, doesn't really necessarily bring in profits for the company as a whole, they can just drop it. Yes. Let's see. They fully acquired New Japan Pro Wrestling on 2012, and Stardom at 2019. And kudos goes to NJPW and Bushiroad for that matter. For keeping themselves afloat for 9 years in running.
I mean, because previously New Japan had been owned by Ukes, which was a video game development company.
Yes, correct. And look what happened to them now.
The last I checked, are developing tactical strategy games and some kind of mystery wrestling project for AEW.
Yeah, heard that they're trying to basically make a video game about AEW, which is okay, fine, great, understandable. Making tons of money with that. But anyway, back to the whole point. Yes, NJPW is kind of like going here, there, and everywhere. Probably because I guess they're trying to cope with the whole fact that they can't really use 100% of their roster efficiently enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because we did actually discuss this a while back when we talked about NJPW going crazy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because they can't, most of their foreign talents are either restricted due to COVID or injured,
Mm-hmm.
or, well, we just don't want to call them up.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But yeah, this main event at Sakura Genesis just looks absolutely ridiculous to me. I mean, because I know that Ibushi can get a decent match out of Ostrich Head, but Ostrich Head has had far too many flips in his time, and he's kind of limited into what he can do because Osprey gets a stupid idea in his head, it goes through his ostrich brain, and all of a sudden you're like, what exactly is he doing?
Yeah. I mean, I think George put it succinctly. Basically, it's a contest between basically any kind of Will Ospreay match is basically just a contest to watch whether how long does it take until Ospreay starts breaking the neck. And I don't say this in a what was it again? In a disrespectful kind of way.
Uh-huh.
It's just that Ospreay's style is so very unique and so very 100% full on high flying is that there's way too many risks for him not to do it, because he puts himself at risk even more terribly than Darby Allin, I guess, if you want to make that kind of comparison.
Mm-hmm. I mean, for Darby Allin right now, his biggest nightmare is the fact that Ethan Page is on the same roster as him. And Ethan Page has now formed a villainous alliance with Scorpio Sky.
Ugh, yeah. That's just okay, but yeah. I can't really say for sure what's going on with NJPW, and I have watched a couple of Sakura Genesis basically, but this year's card, I agree, it's kind of like ridiculous. Yeah, ridiculous, really. Because aside from the whole Ospreay versus Ibushi, not much has been. What was it again? Not much looks interesting, basically. Probably either because not enough build, or I don't know, not enough build or not enough hype about it, or it's just that they're being tied down because of COVID restrictions and whatnot. So there's that too. So it's a little bit here, there, and everywhere kind of situation for NW. But as much as I would, and as much as I would like to wear my rose-tinted glasses about NJPW and sing its praises whenever it works and whenever it doesn't, I'll be the same nitpicky person going, if it's good, then I'll compliment it. If it's not good, I'll definitely find something and nitpick about it, because I don't. So, yeah.
I mean, it's a bad sign for a promotion when one of their... I'm not sure, would you describe yourself as a hardcore fan or a moderate fan of NJPW?
I'll say I'm a moderate fan nowadays of NJPW, because there are some things that are slowly beginning to get fishy and whatnot. So there's that. And I always make fun of how who is it again? It's either Gedo or Jado who has been trained in the Memphis style of booking, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he learned it from the master of explosions himself, Onita.
Yes.
Grandpa Explosion.
When will NJPW realize that? Ooh, explosion. Let's put that in a match.
I mean, at least when you do FMW matches in Japan, the ring actually explodes instead of children's, children's birthday sparklers shooting out of the side of the ring post, and a My First Magician's magic kit are used for smoke effects.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
children's birthday party sparklers.
Yes, Sterling's birthday party sparklers. I know. When a show has spent days upon days, probably even weeks for that matter, probably even months, promising that in the end of our big pay-per-view, there's gonna be an explosion, and it's gonna be awesome. Explosions, things happen because it's awesome. And at the end of the show, what you get is not a bang, but a whimper. People are going to talk about it, even if the show is good, even if your pay per view has been quite good, and I'll admit, Revolution is actually quite good. And then again, I can't stop thinking about the whole what the hell is going on in the ring with the whole sparklers and the smoke
And the timer at the end. The timer.
and the timer at the end.
And the announcer's going 10, 9, 8, 7.
And the announcer's going, "Oh my god!" as the sparklers come up and the smoke come up.
And these little tiny, these little tiny pops, It's like somebody dumped a bunch of pop rocks into a vat of soda.
Yep. And then what was it? And then you even have John Moxley and Eddie Kingston in the middle of the ring, probably trying their hardest not to laugh at this whole talk that's going on. And even Moxley, who came out going, "Well, Kenny Omega can't build a bomb worth of shit." And Eddie Kingston is selling his soul desperately to sell the effects of the quote unquote air quote explosion.
Eddie Kingston EXE has stopped working. Please press any key to continue.
Yeah.
Would you like to send a crash report?
And you are what was it? Poor Eddie Kingston though. He's one of the he's one of the best promo cutters, I guess, because he cuts a promo as if it's really it really is real, basically. Blurs the line between cutting a work promo or shoot promo altogether. It makes it believable for you. For months and months, he has done this basically in his feuds with Moxley or with anybody else in the AEW roster. And then at Revolution, this is what you give him. Please sell the explosion that we're gonna do. No matter how bad it looks, please just sell it.
Yep. But yeah, sumo wrestling's in chaos, the Olympics in chaos, and New Japan has an ostrich-headed idiot and Ibushi in a championship match.
If they can paint Ibushi gold, NJPW will paint him gold. And okay,
I'm just not used to this whole dominance by Ibushi, considering I've seen him in his runs beforehand lose so many times against the top guys, and instead now it's a situation where it's like he is the top guy.
Yeah, I agree. It feels a little bit like Western. It feels a little bit like a Western wrestling promotions kind of like booking, basically, or WWE's current style of booking, where wins and losses doesn't really matter. Oh, this guy is actually this guy actually previously lost to this guy a couple of times already. He's made to look like he's an upper mid carder, but can't really do anything.
Yeah, but at least thankfully, continue.
And I feel like that's what's going on with Kota Ibushi, basically. Because we've already seen him with Kenny Omega as the Golden Lovers. They were perfectly fine together in tag matches and whatnot. Never going above the whole top tag team division, but always stay within this. What was it again? In the picture of the title, basically in the picture of the title belt and whatnot. And then when they And then when they split up, they both of them have moderate amount of successes, with Ibushi being the less basic. Yeah, Ibushi being the less unknown because they prefer to push Kenny Omega up. So there you go. Yeah, and then after years upon years of that, now they give Ibushi, okay, you're going to be the one the guy that we pick. I mean, I understand the King's Road booking perfectly well, but sometimes it's kind of like I have to suspend a lot of disbelief just because to believe that this guy is NJPW's new top guy now.
I mean, do they think that he's Hayabusa?
I don't be surprised when I tell you that there is a manga that has Kota Ibushi as characters look like Hayabusa.
I'm not surprised. So basically, Gendo got bored with evil and says, Ibushi, you're being pushed now as the dominant babyface. Now you have to face against our annoying Gaijin of the month.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, lordy. So, New Japan has got, is in their, faction warfare. You have the International Empire, where, you have the much more interesting Great Okan, who's much more interesting than Ospreay and Jeff Cobb having to be stuck in a faction with this guy. I feel really bad for them.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, it's basically like getting stuck in Suzuki-gun for like 3 years and you don't necessarily fit inside the faction. Or Chaos, or the New Japan, whatever, face army of the month has arisen.
I mean, it has been like what, years? If you examine NJPW's roster quite closely, it has been years and years that NJPW has relied on the whole stable wars kind of thing. There's no one top guy. There's no one main man who's not a part of a stable who's just the man. He's not going to be in any part of a stable and whatnot. Their golden boy at one point, Kazakata, was a member of Chaos, also in a faction as well. Even Hiroshi Tanahashi at one point was also in a stable as well. I think he still currently is in the stable as well. If I remember correctly, if I remember my points correctly, but yeah, he's also in the stable correctly. And I guess this is one of the kind of like rare moments where Ibushi is correct me if I'm wrong, Ibushi is the guy who's not in any kind of stable, basically. He's just himself.
Yes.
So
he's in zero gravity at the moment.
And again, like I said, if NJPW wants to paint him gold and say, this is our god now, they're going to do it. I have a feeling that they're going to do it.
I mean, basically, he is essentially, he was Tiger Mask W. Which, folks, for those of you unaware, Tiger Mask W is essentially one of the greatest pieces of wrestling propaganda I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It is essentially an advertisement of New Japan Pro Wrestling facing off against XP character wrestlers who are technically, and I say this technically look like WWE superstars from 2015.
Technically.
Charlotte and Becky are in this anime.
Yes. Technically. Well, not really technically. Actually, they are.
Yes, they are.
I can't say technically they are. They actually are in it, but technically speaking, it's not them.
It's essentially the same thing as any anime you ever see any restaurants in with corporate American restaurants in. Oh no, that's not KFC. That's Michigan Fried Chicken.
Yes. Exactly. Oh, that's not Colonel Sanders. That's just Grandpa. That's just Grandpa Suzuki or something like that. I don't know.
I am now suddenly imagining Minoru Suzuki in a Colonel Sanders outfit.
Oh no. And a mustache. Oh no. I mean, he did sport one. He did sport a mustache in his younger years, basically. Yeah.
Howdy, folks. Colonel Suzuki here.
Mm-hmm. Oh no.
Because
I
KFC.
am selling Suzuki fried chicken. God damn it! No.
Buy my fried chicken or I got pile driver ya.
You do know that I haven't had breakfast yet, right? The only breakfast I'm having is biscuit. That's pretty much it.
Oh goodness.
Now I'm thinking of going to KFC in the middle of the morning, getting an early lunch or something. Thank you, Fizz, for that pleasant image.
Well, I remember that KFC actually did a promotional thing with WWE a few years ago where they had Dolph Ziggler as Colonel Sanders and Miz in a chicken suit.
Don't remind me. Yeah, they did. They did. They even had a wrestling match in the ring too, for just to promote KFC for that matter. WWE is gonna do WWE things, which is, I guess, is par for the course. But still, I digress on that one. But yeah, too much tangenting. Let's go back to AEWing. Yeah, AEW is slowly beginning to kind of like, what was it? Lose a little bit of credibility, I guess, in a way.
Well, it lost credibility for that 1 week, but it's kind of gained some of that credibility back. It had a really nice arcade anarchy match this week on Dynamite, which was a really nice spectacle match.
Yeah, Miro finally gets his another wrestling match that he can wrestle. Is that it's a and then but it's just a gimmick match with it. But again, it's an entertaining kind of it's an entertaining match. It's an entertaining gimmick match in a style where you watch a car crash go in slow motion. But I don't know. On one hand, I do feel like, okay, this is actually entertaining. Why am I laughing? I don't know, because it's entertaining. On the other hand, I was thinking, oh shit, AEW is taking some cues out of PWG, ain't it?
I mean, I thought that the match was enjoyable. I enjoyed the fact that Penelope Ford made a Picasso painting out of a glass claw grabber screen.
Yep.
Because Chris Statlander was hiding in a claw machine.
Yeah. Chris Statlander hid in the claw machine, comes up, stops Penelope Ford, and gives Penelope Ford a power bomb through a table, which is good. Always pop for a good power bomb through a table. Yeah, which is good. Trent showed up with Trent's mom as well in the minivan, of course. Again. Thumbs up. She gives a thumbs up. Everybody gives her the thumbs up back. Congratulations on that. Again, yes, it feels PWG-ish in a way, but I can't explain why I'm laughing so much. Why am I laughing so much at the entertainment value of it all? Yes. So can't really say much about it. But, yeah, you are correct. But in general, basically, you are correct. Because I've listened to your full April Fool's podcast, and I agree. NJPW. AEW has been quite good, quite entertaining, of course, correct. Yes. And they have earned good credibility amongst their fan base. The only bigger question is that when will the fan base slowly begin to say that, okay, they're treating us like fools now?
It's treating them like fools. I think that moment hasn't hit yet. For me, it's strange. AEW's biggest draw for me has been their undercard shows. Dark and
Oh, yeah.
Elevation, which has somehow not
Oh,
become was what I've called Show of the Bigs Takeshi's Castle Show.
it's always surprising, isn't it, that these big companies, among the big companies that you have, WWE and AEW, basically primarily for this matter, in this case, the entertaining aspect of their show is basically just their sideshow basically. NXT and to an extent SmackDown on one point for WWE and AEW's AEW Dark and Velocity. So.
I generally like main event and the house show type shows that they do. Like I think they stopped doing superstar tapings a few years ago, but superstars, main event. Those are the two shows that I generally liked WWE programming. If I was watching the main shows, I'd be watching Raw, SmackDown, and NXT on occasion just to see what kind of madness Lord Shovel and his nation of Isengard is doing this time.
Let's be correct. Let's be correct, basically. But still, speaking of Lord Saruman of Isengard, basically, or Lord Shovel of Isengard. Did you know that Cody and Brandy has done a reality show now, are doing a reality show now?
Yes, I heard the announcement. They're doing a TNT.
And a lot of
they're doing a TNT style reality show.
Yes, and a lot of AEW fans, a lot of hardcore AEW fans are not buying it. They're already making comparisons to Cody and Brandy is going to be the next Stephanie McMahon and Triple H.
Or worse, Miz.
Or worse. Oh yeah, okay, Miz and Maurice. Yeah. Forgot about that. Yeah.
Because WWE did it first with Miz and Mrs. Miz and Maurice's reality show, which in itself was a spin-off of Total Divas, which was a spin-off of Total Divas is spun off two shows, Total Bellas and Mr. and Mrs.
Yeah.
But I think the AEW fan is going to freak out. They wouldn't necessarily mind it if it's Triple H, because that fan base and the AEW fan base are very similar. It's the Miz fan base, I think, that is making them incredibly concerned. Like, Cody is now doing Miz antics.
Yes. If Cody is allowed to do his antics, oh no.
I mean, if Cody was burying people on a regular basis, I think it would be a situation where they'd be like, oh, okay, the son of a plumber is doing son of a plumber things again. Okay, we kind of understand that. But if he's doing Miz things like, oh, he's doing a reality TV show with his wife, then it becomes a situation where it's like, oh, it's becoming too generic WWE-ified.
Yeah, correct. This is correct. I don't think they're making that kind of comparison as of yet. I think they're just making a link that they're planning on doing a power couple, a wrestling power couple-ish in a way. Some critics some of the outspoken critics of them have said that both Cody and Brandy aren't really doing wrestling things anymore and slowly wanting to turn celebrity, I guess, if you want to go there.
Well, celebrity gets you views.
Yeah. And to be fair, whatever Cody and Brandy does is whatever they want, basically. It's not really my place to say you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, because I'm not their mother. I'm not their mom or dad or their personal assistant or their friend. So I can't go and say, oh, they can't do this, can't do this, can't do this, and I don't like it. Sure, you can, but just have to remember. I always have to remember that those are just my opinions. So with that being said, I don't know. on one hand, I do see the parallels. On the other, I'll always try and do a wait and see kind of
Mhm.
approach. Let's see what happens. If it does suck, then yeah, you can definitely criticize that the show sucks, which is totally fine once you already watched it and so yeah. But yeah. It's just that the only parallel that I can give is that it's funny that like what after the past Cody hasn't done anything significant on NJPW for the past 6 months, several months already, and the stuff that he does, it's kind of like intermittent. He does one big thing, he does one big feud with another wrestler, and then goes silent for about several months basically. So,
Mhm.
and he has the biggest entrance in AEW as if he's being pushed as the top star,
Mhm.
and that's pretty much it. But he doesn't really do anything of significance. So
So Dusty then.
kind kind of, but Dusty earned his what was it again? Dusty earned that legacy of his, and that kind of like swagger or cockiness
Mhm.
or ego. I hate to say ego, but I guess it's kind of like an ego there. But Dusty earned it.
Mhm.
Cody, I don't know because what was it again? Dusty has always been the top star way before he joined WWF basically back then. I think he was the top star in NWA,
Mhm.
and a couple of the mid, and is also a babyface and sometimes a heel at one point in the Southern Territory promotion.
Mhm.
So, and he's always been pushed as that top star, and so that kind of ego is very well earned for Dusty Rhodes. I can't say the same goes for Cody Rhodes, however,
Mhm.
because uh, he has never been put as the top guy in WWE way back in WWE.
Mhm.
He's always been either the upper mid carder or just the mid carder basically. And whenever he's given the opportunity, he I hate to say that due to his own his own shortcomings or WWE's inability at that point to to do something meaningful about it, but he has never been positioned as that. And when he exited WWE and given the opportunity, he's kind of like a deer stuck in headlights, but goes with it anyways and actually extremely enjoys it. So, and when he did, but again, it's nothing of significant or nothing of noteworthy. He just what was it? He has done something. He has done a good thing in ROH. NJPW has used him to, I guess, decent to good effect, but that's pretty much it.
Mhm.
It is in NJPW. He's only being pushed around the circle of Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and whatnot. Basically, the foreign wrestlers. Basically, at that point in time,
Mhm.
and he doesn't really mingle. He doesn't really being booked against the local NJPW homegrown talent.
Mhm.
So he's not exactly being pushed as that kind of star.
Mhm.
So once he opens his own company and starts AEW, it's another story altogether.
Mhm.
So I don't know whether it's. I could definitely say it's an ego, but I could suggest that it's an ego. But for Cody, it's unfounded. It's unfounded. But if you want to compare it to Dusty, Dusty is well earned.
Mhm.
He does kind of like have that kind of. But yeah, that's. I guess that's just my part and parcel of my opinion anyway. So.
Mm. It's really interesting to hear the opinion of somebody else from the perspective of pro wrestling. To hear, the frustrations of, what the heck is going on with New Japan, trying to get
Mhm.
into a new product with AEW, um, trying to keep up with WWE, even as it goes further and further into some kind of bizarre madness. Uh, which
Mhm.
which is pretty typical of them at this point. Overall, AEW is getting me interested in their programming because of their lower card programs, similar to how Impact would do it with their Explosion brand shows. And
Yeah.
also the main Impact shows themselves, because I don't really have a lot of expectations when it comes to wrestling shows, and think that the more silly and insane a show is, that yes, it's not necessarily going to be the biggest draw for the hardcore fans, but the casuals may like it a bit more because there's always something insane going on every week. And thankfully, Dynamite seems to be attracting more of a general audience, and they also seem to be attracting the older crowd that was previously dominant in the ratings for NXT. Now they're starting to move over there to AEW. And also, NXT is actually moving away from Wednesday nights. That's a relief. I mean, because like I remember the last time that there was a franchise wrestling war. It was the brand split between Raw and SmackDown. Many casualties were had during that time of bleak destruction, as one person proclaimed against another that one brand was superior to the other. In a never-ending sea cycle of absolute insane madness, the likes of which had never been seen since the Attitude Era. Lord help us all.
Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy.
But also, the fact is that AEW has been booking wrestlers who I've seen before on the local level, and that has just been super, super fun.
Yeah, and I can't deny that because AEW has done good for their basically their undercard talent, basically. Given the perfect opportunity for their undercard talent to shine, basically. It's just that I've already seen the bigger picture of it, and the bigger reality of it is that you have a really thick glass ceiling that is Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and basically what I call Kenny Omega and friends on the top. So if you can actually push and break that glass ceiling, congratulations, you basically made it to the top roster of AEW. Basically, do well. You are positioned to do well in AEW. Even if you don't necessarily break that glass, you're still wrestling with a crop of really, really good talent, either in the mid card or on the undercard. Like, I mean, what was it? Guys like John Silver, who really is actually quite good, and guys, and again, like I said, I do even if I do kind of like sort of make fun of Darby Allin, he's actually quite a good talent as well. He's like this modern version's Jeff Hardy, basically. This current generation's version of Jeff Hardy. He's a daredevil who can do anything. And then you have guys like, and then you have talents like Anna Jay there. I do love Anna Jay a lot. She's kind of like one of the women wrestlers in there with the huge bags of potential. I really do like it. And that's it. And yeah, among others, basically, their undercard and mid talent are really good. Their women's roster on paper are actually really good. Consider that you filter out the whole affinity to Joshi wrestlers, and that's a really different ballpark that I do not want to open yet. Anyway, but
there are some forbidden doors that you do not want to open. The discourse involving Joshi wrestlers is probably one of them that you don't want to do tonight.
Yep. No, I don't. I'll leave that in more capable hands later.
Well, what I was saying on that particular instance was local wrestlers from my neck of the woods have started getting booked in AEW. And big time Bill Collier, Mega by Ronnie, Daniel Garcia, Kevin Blackwood, others have been booked. And it's been super cool to see them come into this territory over the last year and a half or so during this pandemic. And so we talked about New Japan, we talked about AEW, we talked about all the different promotions, we talked about the brief insanity of sumo wrestling. But the main card tonight on Wacky World of Wrestling is I'm going to be doing some coverage of the independent wrestling shows in the great era known as the Before Times.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the time where I sit down and just listen, basically, because even I'm still currently learning about the independent wrestling stuff.
Okay, so the independent scene in Western New York, I've talked about on several different occasions on Wacky World of Wrestling. It is comprised of two promotions at the moment. They're both in lockdown mode because of the pandemic. They are Southern Tier Wrestling, based in Jamestown, and Empire State Wrestling, based in North Tonawanda/Buffalo, New York. And these two promotions are being covered today on Wacky World of Wrestling, and ESW is being covered for the very first time. So, in brief, first up is STW, Irresistible Forces, from August 3rd, 2019, from the Sherman Central School building in Sherman, New York. This was a part of the cultural festival that was going on at the time. And let's go over the match results. First, we had local wrestler James Santel from Jamestown, New York, facing off against John Rodan from Clarion, Pennsylvania. Cloudy and Jet Rebel. This was a standard four-way tag team. This was a standard match between the four of them. So I'll talk a little bit about the
I'm gonna have to lower down the volume.
I just heard it like it was like a jump scare. I was like, I hear this loud noise.
Yes. TV is being loud today.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to lower the volume. I apologize for this.
No problem.
Okay.
Okay. So, Santel's a local wrestler from Jamestown. Rodan is from Clarion, Pennsylvania. Cloudy is from Rochester, and Jet Rebel is from the Buffalo area. This was basically, I went to this venue. It was a venue that was in the middle of nowhere. Sherman, New York is in the middle of the countryside, similar to Frewsburg, and it had similar conditions because it was a hot August day in a building with little to no AC. Thankfully, the windows were open and the doors were open. We went to the venue. We got our tickets. We got our tickets prior. We head down to this match. The crowd was okay. It was low, but that was mostly because of the fact that people had tuned in for the festival and not really for the wrestling show. But people who did tune in to see this show were very surprised by how good it was. Santel won the match, defeating Rodan, Cloudy, and Jet Rebel, and basically it was a situation where it was a match where Santel was building himself up for a match against his arch nemesis and a person who would be interfering in the card later on, in actually the very next match. All four wrestlers were really solid. Santel did some great moves. Rodan was an absolute force. It's like watching... He's like a smaller version of Wardlow. He looks like a small version of Wardlow. And he, just like chucks people like a giant brick wall. And then you have Cloudy, who's always a good wrestler in these matches. And then Rebel, who's always he's a heel at the time in this particular instance. He had just betrayed Anthony Gaines a year before. And he was basically the wonderful heel menace. Roden was the strength, Cloudy, and Rebel. So you have, basically one tweener, one face, and two heels facing against each other in this four-way match. And this was to build Santel up for his upcoming showdown against another person who shows up in the very next match. The next match is Anthony Gaines, None of a Kind, versus He devours
Wait a minute.
Kentucky Fried Chicken rings. He eats tacos on a Tuesday. The formerly 13th ranked competitive eater, because he officially retired from competitive eating in 2019 to focus on a full-time wrestling career, it's Megabyte Ronnie, with his manager, Upton Sinclair. Formerly a vegan hipster, teams with Reza Ellswood, who has now gone to the dark side and is now a carnival show barker, promoting the virtues of the hot dogs.
So wait a minute. He's being billed as none of a kind.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Anthony Gaines is none of a kind. He is a cruiserweight wrestler who also has a hardcore brawler deathmatch style to his matches.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
Remember that gift, that famous gift of an indie wrestler flying through the air after being literally bounced by Ace Romero?
Yeah.
That's him.
Okay.
It's not the first time I've seen Gaines proofing happen. Gaines proofing, the element in which the element of Anthony Gaines somehow managing to find a way of nearly crashing something on the venue. You know, flies for the air. Every time that he bounces in the air, it's like, is he gonna land? Is he gonna land safely? Is he gonna crash for that table? Oh, he's crashing for the table. Oh, please don't hit your head on the roof. He's a great wrestler. He's fantastic. It's a situation where every time he's in one of these situations, I'm worried. I'm like, is the venue going to fall apart? Have they Gaines-proofed the venue? So Anthony Gaines had a competitive match against Megabyte Ronnie. Ronnie is the largest of the large hams. He has such charisma and personality that it absolutely shines through in every situation that he's in. He also had his evil, diabolical former vegan manager try to assist him in defeating Gaines. He did the people's elbow with a hot dog.
Sounds. No words can describe.
He's done the spot on AEW as well.
No.
I think he also did the spot at Beyond Wrestling when he faced off against, let me think here, Richard Holiday.
Oh, okay.
So, Gaines defeated Ronnie in spite of him trying to cheat at every conceivable turn, and then Ryan Cassidy came into the ring and attacked Anthony Gaines with a traffic cone.
Oh, Lord.
So, a traffic cone and a boom form microphone. Yeah.
Nice. When nothing works, just grab whatever you can to use a weapon. Sure.
And then I think somebody else ran in to stop Cassidy from his chaotic reign. I think it was Santel.
Okay.
Which ended up it ended up happening on the next show afterwards. So then we had To Infinity and Beyond. That's Cheech and Colin Delaney as a tag team. They faced off against Vinnie Moon, the leader of the Moonanites, and master of guy who ends up getting destroyed by the heavyweight wrestlers because he chooses to defy gravity, and Dakota Orion. Another guy who is very, very good at... He is another cruiserweight wrestler who is very good with the flips, and he flies for the air like it's nothing. It's amazing to watch him work. Vinnie Moon is more of an 80s style cruiserweight who's really good with the double team and tag team moves. He's also good in the singles competition. They were competing for the Southern Tier Wrestling Tag Team Championships. Infinity and Beyond are a very well-seasoned, very great veteran tag team, and, of course, their experience and age and treachery overcame the youth and enthusiasm of Vinnie Moon and Dakota Orion to win the STW Tag Team Championships. Now, for some reason, the Maker wasn't defending the belt with Vinnie in this particular instance, but To Infinity and Beyond won the belts off of these two, and it was a really competitive, really well-booked tag team match. After that, you like the contest of a giant wrestler facing off against 3 smaller wrestlers?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're gonna
Sounds
love. Well, you're gonna love Paxton Calloway.
Oh, okay.
Paxton
Please give me the
Calloway
details.
is a 7-foot tall giant wrestler.
Oh, okay.
He is
How
a
tall?
giant. He is a giant wrestler from Ohio. He has incredible charisma in the ring. My mother really, really likes his work. She really likes his comedic timing, especially in this match versus the Unbookables, which is Dave Waz, a.k.a. Areza Ellswood's new stable of Mikey Everynight and Steve Gange and Elwood in this situation. They are the Unbookables. They are a comedy tag team. And Mikey Everynight and Steve Gange have been amazingly wonderful in SDW. They previously have been heels, but now they're sort of tweener babyface characters in the territory at this time period. And they faced off against the giant wrestler Paxton Calloway.
The 7-foot tall guy.
Yes.
Who might have been fed corn, and he looks tall and really big and gigantic. Okay.
Yes, he's really big. He's really gigantic. He is a really good worker for being as tall as he is. And they had a 3-on-1 match against him where he chokeslammed all 3.
At the same time or separately?
He chokeslammed all 3 of them, basically.
Oh, okay.
I think he did 2 at the same time, and then he did another move on somebody else. I think it was...
okay.
It was a really fun squash match, which also prepared us, because Paxton Calloway basically sort of debuted as a babyface, but then he kind of morphed into a different character at the end of the show. Next up was
Oh, Lord, he is huge.
Oh, and Senju has just seen a photo.
Oh, Lord, he is huge.
Yes, he is huge. My mother actually posed with a photo with him. My mother is the size of Alexa Bliss in comparison to Paxton.
Good Lord, he is huge. Okay.
Yeah. Next up is the match for the STW Fireheart Championship, and it's the invincible Vince Valor, who was the champion at that point, facing off against the patron saint of professional wrestling, Brandon Thurston.
Oh, okay. Your boy. Oh, well, not really your boy. Your man right there.
Yeah. The 2020 Wrestling MVP, by the way, folks. The person I've called the 2020 Wrestling MVP on the last broadcast. Brandon did some amazing work in what was essentially a no DQ match for the SDW Fireheart Championship. No, it is not on fire, and no, it does not have a human heart as the centerpiece. So, Haji from Captain Planet, no, this is not your belt.
Yep, this is not your belt.
Invincible Vince Valor normally is booked as a heel in other territories, but here he is a working-class hero babyface. And he faced against the conniving, devious Thurston in a really great technical match that also involved a spot where Thurston got dumped into a garbage can. They had a brawl outside the ring. They had a brawl inside the ring. Thurston used devious tactics to defeat Valor, which led us to the next show after that, which was the show afterwards, setting up a future feud. They had been feuding since the beginning of 2019 at Gold Rush 2019 for the Fireheart Championship, and this continued that feud. After
Okay.
this, the special guest of the show, Tugboat. Yes. The Rhodes
Tugboat
Connection.
himself. Oh.
We were going somewhere with that Rhodes Connection. Tugboat, aka the mighty Shockmaster, shocked the world, or in this case, Sherman, New York, by making an appearance with the adventurer, Stone Rockwell.
Okay.
So, Stone Rockwell, or as my mother has called him, the person who has somehow not gotten sued by Steven Spielberg's estate and been crushed by a giant boulder, because his gimmick is essentially he is an adventurer, like a Pulp Fiction adventurer from the 1930s and 40s, like a certain Indy of the Anna and the Jones.
Mm-hmm.
He faced against the team of Landlord. Yes. His gimmick is that he is a Albanian landlord character. And he wants your money. Landlord wants his rent. It is the perfect gimmick for around here because people hate their landlords.
Yes.
So it's like a universal hatred. And of course, the Don, Rob Sweet, with the person who usually blows the roof off the building. All you people bow before the might and the furnace of heat that is Super Beast.
Super Beast. Okay.
Super Beast. One of the most devious, maniacal, destructive forces in the world of Southern Tier Wrestling. Super Beast, the man who led his champion Rob Sweet to win the Southern Tier Wrestling Heavyweight Championship from Big Time Bill Collier at Gold Rush 2018. Super Beast, a guy who has literally carried feuds and angles alongside his devious family in Southern Tier Wrestling by being the literal force of nature. This match really did showcase, it was a fun, great match. They had a opening segment where a kid from the crowd came in, did an interview segment with Rockwell. Landlord and Sweet interrupted. Tugboat interfered in the match. It was a grand old fun time. It was a fun match. After that, it was J-Rock versus Matt Ratcliffe. J-Rock and Ratcliffe had a phenomenal match. Ratcliffe is a guy who, he's a jiu-jitsu person.
Okay.
Yes, he actually does jiu-jitsu. And
he's kind of like the cheaper version of Steve Blackman, that is. Okay.
Not Steve Blackman. Minoru Suzuki. Yes.
Oh, he's that advanced in age, or is just
in terms of wrestling moves. He did the arm breaker through the ropes move.
Oh, okay.
You know that move that Suzuki does where he grabs a person's arm and just does the dragging through the ropes?
Yeah.
And tries to break their arm?
Yeah, he does the same thing. Okay.
This was a solid, very fun match. Another great showcase for Matt Ratcliffe. Then after that, it was the main event, on which a person who had been built up over the past year and a half, 2 years, and a former enforcer of the patron saints of pro wrestling was, of course, the destroyer of everything, Mr. Terrell Kenneth.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Terrell Kenneth faced off against the, at the time, champion, Big Time Bill Collier for the STW Heavyweight Championship of the World. Now, when you go to a local indie wrestling show and Bill Collier is on the card, that is an instant buy. His matches, his main events, are so good. I have talked about them consistently on Wacky World of Wrestling, and they are worth the price of admission every single time. By the way, tickets were only $10 for this show. The Brooklyn Square Brawl show was free if you brought food. If you brought cans of food for the donation that they were having for the charity. And the ESW Falling Leaves Festival show was also free because it was part of the festival.
Oh, okay.
So,
fair, I guess.
Yeah. because they get comped, because these wrestling promotions get comped by the venues and the venues and sponsors to run a wrestling show.
Okay. That's good.
I think that they do that in Japan as well on the independent level.
Yeah. On the independent level, for the most part, basically the place that gets compensated. There's a kind of like a mutual agreement with the host and the company that wants to do a show there. So, yeah, which explains a lot whenever you see Japanese independent wrestling wrestling promotions going to odd places like warehouses or inside a shopping mall or something like that. Yeah.
So Terrell Kenneth and Bill Collier basically had a kaiju-style Godzilla versus Kong match. In this particular case, Kenneth was Gigan, and Collier was Anguirus. And for those who know...
Gigan and Anguirus, so yeah.
Yeah, so basically it was Gigan versus Anguirus in this particular situation.
I had to pause a bit just to... Okay, Godzilla. To pull up the Godzilla card. Okay? Oh, okay. Now I get...
So yeah, the spiky monster with the chainsaw blade in the center versus essentially what is Godzilla's partner who takes the loss. And what happened in this particular instance, a third monster came into the match. Paxton Calloway turned heel, interfered, and attacked big time.
Oh.
Kenneth, after literally squishing him with a Vader salt. Yes, he can do a Vader salt.
Yeah.
And he also did the Swagger Bomb, or Vader Bomb as it's called.
Oh.
So he did the Vader Bomb, he did a suplex, he did multiple really good moves to make himself legitimate, and he beat Collier. It was one of those moments where him being a heel, it like went out the door because my mother cheered him, winning the belt. She has been like Kenneth's biggest supporter throughout this entire run. She wanted to see him get a run with the belt, and thankfully he was able to for this show and the next show after. So yeah, Terrell Kenneth won the STW Heavyweight Championship. Then we get to the last at this moment show for STW, which was originally the Bergman Brawl at Bergman Park in Jamestown. Unfortunately, there was a torrential rainstorm that weekend, so they had to move the venue.
Okay.
So they moved the venue down to Brooklyn Square in Jamestown, New York. Now, Brooklyn Square has a bit of a history, folks. Brooklyn Square used to be a neighborhood in Jamestown that was basically demolished in the 1960s as a part of economic redevelopment. Also because of the fact that there were several things about the area. One, and this is the most important thing that the residents don't seem to remember very well, Brooklyn Square is in the middle of a floodplain in the city. It is in the lowest part of the city it's in a floodplain. In addition to the fact several of the buildings were built right on top of a bridge. That bridge-style construction was banned by New York State in the 1950s and 60s after several notable instances of buildings falling apart. And so the Brooklyn Square redevelopment happened. And right now, at this point, there's a bunch of, stores and, a restaurant that's vacant at this point, and a nice amount of green space, actually. It's pretty nice, actually, at the moment. They rebuilt the bridge. The river, the Chattahoochee River is a lot better than it was previously in the 60s and 70s. It was barely a trickle. So, yeah, it was one of those situations where it was what you guys had in the 60s with the Japan economic redevelopment.
Oh, okay. The bubble era, or basically just escaping out from the bubble era and then joining a show era. Okay.
So, at the Brooklyn Square Brawl at the Jamestown Salvation Army building, which, here's the hysterical story. They have, you know how gymnasiums in Japan have rules posted on the wall?
Yes, yes.
The rule number
Yes.
3 is no fighting.
and let me guess, they fought
Yes.
in the gymnasium.
Rule number 3 in the gymnasium. They fought in the gymnasium, and rule 3 regularly has being not abided by. So we show up to the venue. The venue is only about 5 blocks away from my house. We drive down,
Yes.
and I arrive at the venue, and I have, with my mom, we have 2 bags full of like cans. And what we do is we go to the venue, we go talk to the promoter and the guy that's the manager of the army building, of the Salvation Army building. And we put the cans, these 2 bags, and the guy's eyes just go like they were like he was expecting we just be like donating like 1 or 2 cans. Instead, we bring home 2 entire bags full of 10 to 15 cans, and we dump it in this put it in this shopping cart. By the time the show was over, the shopping cart is overfilled with cans and other goods and other food goods for the food bank.
Good. I mean, it's I mean, I've already spoken to you personally about your mom. She is actually quite a really great person, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we
Well,
donated
to have the wrestlers going in and out of beyond to do and basically she's kind of like the mediator between the wrestlers and the audiences at hand.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't really care whether the wrestler she supports is a heel or a face. She just supports it. Go.
Mm-hmm.
You go, Mr. Fizzpatrick. Hey.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the first match on the card was Vinnie Moon versus the Remix, Kevin Bennett. Now, Kevin Bennett had, up until this point, been a tweener face character on this show. If you really like flippy, acrobatic, cruiserweight matches that are done really well by 2 professional wrestlers, you will really like Vinnie Moon versus Kevin Bennett. It was a really solid, really well-executed match. And then after the match, Vinnie Moon defeated Kevin. And what happened is that Kevin didn't take the loss very well.
Okay.
Kevin turned heel and gave Vinny the remix, which is his finisher, and everybody booed him out of the building.
So basically, he got booed.
Mm-hmm.
Basically.
Yeah. So Kevin Bennett turned heel on this show to face defeated, and basically he. Well, what first he did is he kicked Vinny in the gonads, then hit the remix finisher on him, and then just basically just like shrugged and went, "Hey, what did I do, huh?"
All in the day's work.
And then Infinity and Beyond had their first tag defense against Rob Sleet and the Landlord for the SDW Tag Team Championships. Really fun, really solid match between these 2 teams. But there was tension.
Ooh, okay.
Rob grabbed the microphone from Super Beast and said, "I can speak for myself."
Oh. Standing up. Basically just standing up to his superiors and whatnot. Yeah, okay.
And the family lost.
That's surprising.
What's even more surprising is what happened next.
Okay.
So the family turned their backs on Super Beast in the form of Rob Sweet grabbing a chair and smashing Super Beast in the back. Yes.
Sound. That's
The
kind of like a really really deep backstabbing.
yes, a really really deep backstab by Sweet and Landlord against Beast.
And if I don't and if I didn't know the context beforehand, it sounds as if the actual literal landlord came in and stabbed you in the back,
Mm-hmm.
especially a crazy Albanian landlord.
Yes. Landlord and Sweet betrayed Super Beast. There's consequences for that. The Super Beast never forgets. And even with this lockdown and even with this pandemic, if it does come to the fact that all three of these individuals are back on the same show and the same card, oh, there will be vengeance.
There will be blood.
Yep.
Smell it. All the backstabbing happening. Yeah.
Because Beast happens to be manager of another team in STW who also worked with the family. They're known as the Nachi Mafia. Think Beak Bop and Ropsteady from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
That's the Nachi Mafia. Two extremely large, big, muscular individuals who literally plow through their opponents like a steamroller, running over a pizza.
And here I thought it's almost going to be like what? And here I thought it was going, okay, Bebop, Rocksteady. So I'm looking at a warthog and a rhinoceros with hands and feet looking very beefy. Okay.
Yep.
And then my mind jumped to another version of it. Oh, okay. That means red hair Sheamus. Red hair Sheamus is a new Ninja Turtle. That Rocksteady Bebop. Okay. But okay. I can take that. Okay. I like the gimmick.
Yep.
Sounds like, what was it again? It sounds like what heavy machinery is supposed to be. Go run over people, basically. Yeah.
Yep. The 7-foot-tall monster boosted his credibility in his feud against Bill Collier by defeating Jet Rebel and Sebastian Braun in a 2-on-1 handicap match. Braun being the destructive monster who also sometimes goes by Slade. He and Rebel teamed together, and they actually formed a super giant fighting robot with Rebel on top of Braun, trying to fight Calloway.
Oh no.
Yes.
They actually tried. They actually want to try that version. Human combination. Oh no. Okay.
Afterwards, continue.
Tell me it worked.
It worked for a bit, and then Calloway hit Braun in the knees, and the pile went tumbling down.
As expected.
Yeah. So Calloway destroyed Rebel and Braun. Then it was Thurston versus Valor for the STW Fireheart Championship in a 15-minute time limit match.
I see.
Small venue, tiny roof, technical wrestling grappling happened, and it was amazing. Brandon Thurston is one of the best technical wrestlers in the area. And whenever he fights Valor, they bring out the best in one another. And this match was a match in which Valor tried to prove that he had as good, if not better, submission skills than Thurston did. Unfortunately for Valor, there was one problem.
Which is?
The time was not on his side.
Oh. Okay.
So the match went to a 15-minute time limit draw. Thurston used every underhanded tactic in the book to retain that STW Fireheart Championship. It was wonderful to see what he could do against Valor, from injuring his arm to going against with the Fujiwara armbar to using the ring post to his advantage. Every single time it was a situation where Thurston had a counter for Valor in this match. It was a really great midway point match of the show. Then at intermission, I got a shirt from Bennett. And at the intermission is usually my favorite time of the shows to, like, say hi to people. You know, in this before times, I was able to do that. We got a photo with Paxton Calloway. I got a shirt from him.
Nice.
And it was, and I actually have these over here in the background of my area. The Callaway shirt, I got a Kevin Bennett shirt. And after the intermission was over, Big Time Bill Collier had to reestablish his credibility as a heavyweight champ, so he faced against Cloudy and J-Rock in a triple threat match. And all three performers did incredibly well in that match. Collier reestablished himself by beating Cloudy and J-Rock.
Okay.
Then after that, the blow-off to the Ryan Cassidy-John Kennedy feud. At STW Take Me Out to the Brawl game, John Kennedy, the vicious, maniacal, diabolical heel of the Divine Alliance. The Divine Alliance broke up on that show, and Ryan Cassidy performed a chair shot exorcism on Kennedy.
Chair shot exorcism, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
Cassidy performed a chair shot exorcism and began proclaiming himself as this wild card, I don't care about anything wrestler gimmick that he had been doing on prior shows. So it was a heel going against another heel, and this time the heel went babyface. A prior rival of John Kennedy's, James Santel, would take up the charge against the devious and maniacal Cassidy after his antics with Anthony Gaines. So they had themselves a really nice brawling match against one another, and Kennedy was the special guest referee.
Okay. Well, I guess what would you expect? What would you expect if one of the heels go? I'm not going to give a damn now. I'm just gonna beat people up.
I'm gonna beat people up with traffic cones and scream my name like a Pokemon. Ryan Cassidy. So Cassidy and Santel had a fine match against one another in this particular match, where the two of them had a really good match facing off against one another. Cassidy lost the match against Santel. And this was a good match between these two. Great blow-off to the Cassidy-Kennedy angle. And ironically enough, for STW, Ryan Cassidy recently, as of last week, announced that he was stepping away from professional wrestling.
He stepping away as in just fully retiring, or just stepping away?
I believe he's stepping away as in retiring from professional wrestling at this point. Cassidy had so many fantastic moments and segments in STW. His heel run in Southern Tier Wrestling was phenomenal. He could get heel heat from anybody. He could get the crowd to despise him and his antics. His constant screaming of his own name like a Pokemon. It was always wonderful. It was always a case of, what is Cassidy going to do next on this show? And it was always fun. So this was the perfect send-off match, in hindsight, for Cassidy.
Well, yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess it's a perfect send-off, considering.
So, like,
and at least he doesn't. Well, it's not really as if he's going to go out on his back. Basically, he's just
Well, he went on his back on this show, and he did a couple more shows up in Rochester, but for him and STW, this was his final match.
Okay then. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
So yeah, he announces basically he's stepping away from pro wrestling. He's basically retiring
Uh-huh.
from pro wrestling as
Uh-huh.
of this
Uh-huh.
March 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So this show was in August of 2000. Actually, it was September 3rd, 2019, at the Brooklyn Square Jamestown Salvation Army building in Jamestown, New York. And the main event was a
Mm-hmm.
special one. The city of
Mm-hmm.
Jamestown, New York has been known as a city that was very instrumental in helping individuals for the Underground Railroad during the
Okay.
1800s. The Robert H. Jackson Standard was established about 20 years ago that highlights that
Mm-hmm.
history of helping slaves escape from the plantations of the South. And
Oh,
Brooklyn
okay, okay, yeah.
Square was a big area where slaves escaping up north to Canada was an area where they
Uh-huh.
would run through the woods and into the safe houses that were dotted. There's a church across the street from the Robert H. Jackson Center. It was one of the very first safe houses for the abolitionist movement.
Mm-hmm.
This main event is culturally important because this is a main event between two individuals. One is African
Mm-hmm.
American, the other is African American, half Native American.
Oh, okay.
It's Terrell Kenneth versus Dakota Orion. What a wonderful main event for the STW Heavyweight Championship, and a perfect,
Mm-hmm.
at this time, send off for Southern Tier Wrestling. This was a phenomenally well structured, very well booked main event. Kenneth is a great base for lucha style moves that Orion was able to do. Orion is a phenomenal cruiserweight, and these two
Mm-hmm.
had a great, great match in this venue. Not just for the cultural
Oh.
significance and the importance of two great wrestlers having a wonderful main event against one another,
Mm-hmm.
but also the factor is
I
of
mean,
two individuals having
mm-hmm.
this main event in Jamestown, a city that was known as the major hub of the abolitionist movement during the 1800s and a major
Mm-hmm.
hub of the Underground Railroad. I have a safe house, an Underground Railroad safe house in my house. We uncovered it in 2000. It's under our steps.
Uh-huh.
We did a massive amount of research on the Underground Railroad routes that had been previously not documented.
Mm-hmm.
And we uncovered that information. It was a school thesis project that I did in 2000 to 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's interesting.
yeah, it was really, really cool. So to see this main event with these two great wrestlers in this city, it was just phenomenally great. Perfect send off for Southern Tier Wrestling in this particular instance of these two wrestlers for the Heavyweight Championship. Kenneth retained with a Kenneth Powerbomb on Orion,
Mm-hmm.
and that capped
Mm-hmm.
off Southern Tier Wrestling's Brooklyn Square Brawl at the Jamestown Salvation Army building. What a really, really great show. So, Senju, what have your thoughts been so far about the indie scene so far with one show left to go?
I mean, it is pretty interesting to see it from this kind of perspective. Basically, the difference. Basically, there are some gems, hidden gems that are around basically in every nook and cranny of any city, basically for in terms of wrestling. Because I've always said you don't really have to go to any kind of major promotion at all to take what it is. There's always going to be these small back of the alley, or probably just small independent promotions that are just doing their own thing. And sometimes it's not that bad. It's actually quite good. And hearing about the cultural significance of the final match, of course. The I don't know. I think I believe it's just a happy coincidence that really had a lot of symbolic meaning and significance towards it. And I don't know whether it's planned or not. I hate to say that it's planned like that or something. It's just a happy medium of coincidence and just uh, sheer happenstance, basically. But it happened, and yeah, it is quite interesting.
Hmm. So the last show on the card
But
here
in any case,
is one that is very
do
special
I
to
have
me.
one more, or do we have one more? But
Yes,
yeah,
we have one more show
but in
here.
any case, I don't
Uh,
know whatever, but yeah, there's like there's always going to be the there's always going to be things that you yourself would enjoy, basically, in a sense, because this is felt, and a lot of your explanation felt close to home, basically. Hits close to home because you sit down and you watch them, you know these people, basically. Yeah. That has always been, well, pretty good, pretty decent.
mhm.
Yes, because if you basically, if it sounds like a fun, close knit, it's not really close knit community. It sounds like a fun, uh, what was the correct word? It sounds like
These
a
are
really,
family
really
shows.
fun, yeah, your family friendly, your family friendly fun time shows in a way, yeah. But it caters to it. But yeah, it is something like.
I
I
really
feel it's
do
kind of a.
like I really do like introducing people to these local shows, whether it be I mean, every time I've had somebody on to talk about what these local shows are, it has always been super fun to talk about and describe what these shows are. These are family-friendly wrestling shows. They're not hardcore deathmatch shows. They're not any kind of other shows like that. They are family-friendly shows. They are really, really
Mm,
nice to go to, and it gives the wrestlers a challenge of being family-friendly in a promotion that isn't a TV 14 TVMA style promotion. Mm.
yeah, you're not hindered to the whole. What was it? You're not hindered to the whole rating system that some shows would adhere to because they have a contractual obligation to a TV network or something. Yeah.
Hmm. So
So
yeah,
yeah.
it is like really cool to see Bill in AEW wrestling. He's actually going to be wrestling on AEW Dark Elevation next week against Hangman Adam Page. Mm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Is it possible that they're actually scouting him for this, or it's just basically just something that they want to do for him?
I think that they like his work so far, and that he was in a six-man tag against with two other people against the Dark Order. So yeah, they definitely see something in big time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and him getting booked in these higher level promotions is really great for him. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so he wasn't booked on the next card after this, so that's why we're doing the segment on Bill Collier. After that was, of course, this was something really special. I had wanted
Mm-hmm.
to go to an ESW show for the last several years. The problem being is that they're
Mm-hmm.
based in Buffalo, and Buffalo has nightmarish traffic, and I've never been to North Tonawanda, New York before. I've been to other parts of Buffalo before. I've been to several parts of Rochester before, heck, even. Um, the problem
Mm-hmm.
was is that driving in that nightmarish traffic didn't really seem like a good idea at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
since we were doing car repairs at that moment, we felt like, okay, a place that's a little closer we could do. And we knew that ESW did shows in Salamanca, New York, which is about only 20 miles or so away from Jamestown. Here's the
Oh,
interesting
okay.
thing about Salamanca. Salamanca is technically not in New York State.
Okay.
It is its own nation.
Nah.
It is a part of the Seneca Nation of Indians.
Oh, okay. 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 I get it.
So the Seneca Nation of Indians is basically an autonomous, independent state within New York, from Irving, New York, to some parts of Pennsylvania. Parts of like the border of Pennsylvania there. Salamanca is one of the home cities of the Seneca Nation of Indians, and they have a festival known as the Falling Leaves Festival. And ESW has done wrestling shows the last several years in Salamanca, New York. In the middle of the downtown district of Salamanca, in a tent, not as grand as the circus tent of Frewsburg, which was basically a 1940s circus tent. But it always seems to me that the best wrestling shows happen in circus tents.
Well, let's see. We always said that. What was it again? We always said that wrestling at its core is basically just a carny kind of sideshow in a way.
Yep.
I guess unironically and ironically both at the same time, putting the best wrestling shows under a circus tent under a circus tent is producing the best results. It's not really that surprising.
But the great thing is about this promotion is that it is ESW, or Empire State Wrestling, is a promotion that has been going since 2003. There have been several different incarnations of ESW throughout the years. And ESW is essentially a super indie AA promotion. This, to them, is a house show. And this house show had some incredible matches, angles, and segments. One of the reasons why we wanted to come to an ESW show was because there are several wrestlers that had not been getting booked lately in STW that we wanted to see. The Queen Midas of professional wrestling, Kate Carney. And a person I think you're very familiar with if you've watched a lot of the indies recently, who has gone on an absolute tear and recently won the Limitless Heavyweight Championship. We'll get to his segment later on in the show. But surprisingly enough, this was definitely a very Red Death show.
Nice.
So, do you want to see a Bizarro World opening match?
Sure. Why not?
The Bizarro World opening match is Rob Sweet versus the Landlord.
Oh.
And this is in like a completely different comic book continuity, ESW is, than Southern Tier. So Rob Sweet is still a heel. It's Landlord who's the babyface.
Wait a minute. The Landlord that we're supposed to hate is now a babyface?
Yes.
Oh no. What has the world gone into? What has the world been turned into? We're supposed to hate the...
It was an enjoyable, wonderful opening sprint match between these two individuals that got the crowd pumped up. So what we did is we arrived at the venue. We parked in the Rite Aid parking lot across the street. That's right next to the venue. We go over there. We find our seats. And thankfully, because it's a free show, so we could sit, in a decent, comfortable spot. And what was always so cool about it is that random people would just be coming in and sitting down, and it was a situation where like the entire town showed up. Capacity was really nice. We went over to one of the venues. We had tax-free curly fries.
Oh, okay.
Because it's on the Seneca Nation lands, it is tax-free.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's on an autonomous land. So basically, United States tax law does not count.
Yep. And it was really comfortable for both of us because both of us are Native American. All three of my family members, my mom, my dad, and myself, are Native American.
Yes.
So, so for us, it's like, oh, we get to be here in the mountains, and it's really comfortable. It's really nice. And me and my mom, we went to the show. My dad doesn't like crowds, so he didn't attend. I think he also was at work that day, so.
Yeah.
So after that, we had the ESW Interstate title match. it was Frankie Fevers versus Matt Ratcliffe. It was another really great match between these two. Frankie Fevers is another wrestler who is... He is basically your perfect intercontinental wrestler. A guy who can get a great match out of anybody. And Matt Ratcliffe was being a heel for the first time. He, again, he has a personality that is very similar to Minoru Suzuki, Shinjiro Onotani, and all of those MMA-type martial arts style gimmicks.
Yeah.
He was doing all these underhanded MMA tactical moves on Frankie Fevers. And his royal freshness had to deal with Ratcliffe's offense. Really fun, really combustible event. Ratcliffe was getting great heat from the fans.
As expected, yeah.
Yep, as expected. It was really fun. Then after that, it was Dewey Murray and Anthony Musso versus Dakota Orion and Vinnie Moon in another standout tag team match. Orion and Moon are fantastic as a tag team. Anthony Musso was despicable. And Dewey Murray and his finely tuned redneck trucker physique tried to attempt to squash people again.
Oh, not again.
There was also a segment involving the main event of this particular show, which was everybody's favorite person in Salamanca, Super Beast, interrupted the mayor of Salamanca.
Why did that have to happen?
Super Beast interrupts the mayor, cuts a promo, gets booed out of the circus tent, and he brings his charges, Killer Instinct, Kevin Cartwright, and Mike Skyros, to the ring. And they're going to go beat up the mayor, but Nunzio, yes, ECW's Nunzio, and Vince Valor run in to save him.
Oh, Gary.
Yep, and the main event of the evening is a tag team match between these two teams, but we'll get to that later. Then there was the women's match in the card. Adrenalina Fury, in I believe her second match ever, she comes to the ring with Kate, and Kate is cutting a promo. This is Adrenalina Fury, and it's her first match ever. And she's so condescending and looking at her like, I'm gonna destroy you. Kate Carney is literally the most destructive force in pro wrestling. Her elbows are fierce. She has the same megaton power as one of Nikki Bella's Bella Hammers.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Good comparison.
Yes. Her strike skills are on point. She is a Pacific Northwest wrestler, so she naturally has that Jean LaBelle grappling style mixed with the Greco-Roman striking.
Oh, okay. Sounds like a good build already.
And Adrenalina Fury was good at selling the offense. They had a great standard match against each other. And what was so funny is there was a bunch of punk high school kids that were sitting in the crowd. It was a bunch of like obnoxious boyfriends. You know, the ones you'd see in like J-pop or K-pop dramas. Those obnoxious ones who basically like, you know, saying, "Oh, everything's fake, this, that, and the other thing," you know, all that stuff.
Yeah, the ones who heckle, basically. Yeah.
Yes. When the Carney versus Fury match happened, their jaws dropped and their girlfriends started grinning. Kate is an ex-cheerleader.
Yeah. Okay.
So, as they're they're talking with their girlfriends, they're seeing this girl just literally lay elbow drop after elbow drop on Adrenalina Fury, and they're just like horrified. They're like backing up in their seats. They're like, "Oh God, what is she doing?" You know, it's like, oh, and they expected this match to be some kind of like Divas style match with like, hair pulling. There was hair pulling, but it wasn't Diva style. It was a wrestler facing against another wrestler. And that's what made this match great. It was a wrestler versus wrestler context. Gender was not involved here. One person literally has an elbow who can atomize mountains. And we happen to be in the Allegheny Mountain range, so she's probably craving a few of them at this point. So you have this awesome match that just absolutely freaks out their boyfriends. And the girls are just grinning and like nodding at one another, like going, yep, that's definitely something there.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely something there.
So, you're going to buy me a box of chocolates now, dear? So, it was the ear-piercing cheerleader war cry that Kate did that scared the bejesus out of them.
Good.
She's yelling.
The crap out of them.
It's like
the crap out of them. Then good.
Yeah, it's this ferocious monster just destroying this person and then screaming to the crowd after she almost loses to a free count. But Kate wins the match. Really, really stellar match to freak the bejesus out of people in the audience, which was wonderful.
Of course it is.
After that, it was Anthony Gaines versus Jeremiah Richter. Jeremiah Richter is a really good mid-tier, mid-heavyweight wrestler in this area of the woods. And he faces off against Anthony Gaines, none of a kind, great cruiserweight wrestler, really, really capable individual in these types of matches. Gaines and Richter had a really nice fire match against one another. And it was another one of those situations where this was one show that did not have an intermission period, unlike I think a lot of the other ones. This one just had it had straight matches through because of the concerns about darkness. So Richter, powerful offense. Guy can do choke slams. He can do all these seismic tosses. It's just so fun to watch Richter work. And this is during the time when he is in his first year of pro wrestling. And he was in the undercard of the STW shows in Fredonia when they did the Chautauqua County Fair. That basically, literally, it was a free show. They packed the entire building.
Nice.
Yeah. It was so cool to see. And Gaines and Richter, phenomenal match, and continue.
I mean, it's what was it? What was it again? I was trying to say. I mean, it's. I'll gladly overlook the fact that with independent wrestling promotions, they're always going to find the most affordable venues that they can have that they can realistically pack, basically, and usually at some point, at most points in time, they can actually do that. They can actually pack.
Yeah, because this was at the Chautauqua. That was at the Chautauqua County Fair, which is a big annual event in this neck of the woods.
Yes, agreed.
Then we had another awesome cruiserweight match between Kevin Bennett and a cut above the breast Gavin Glass.
Okay.
Another.
Earlier on, I did hear, what was it again? What was it again? None of a kind. Now it's now I can't remember.
So None of a Kind, a cut above the rest, and the remix. So
what other inspirational quotes?
The other one would be Red Death.
Oh, okay.
So their nicknames. Kevin Bennett, who is a face in this match against the heel cruiserweight Gavin Glass. Kevin, who, as he wants to do in circus tents, his feet touch the roof of the circus tent for the second time.
Oh.
He did a
Dude,
splash maneuver, and his feet hit the top of the circus tent again.
Okay, then.
This was a high-flying, really well-constructed cruiserweight match between two professional wrestlers who know what they're doing, and they're so capable of having these high-quality, high-caliber matches. Now, normally for me, cruiserweight matches, I don't really like watching a lot of them on TV because they're just like, okay, it's interesting, but it's not really my thing. But at indie shows, when I go to an independent wrestling show, the cruiserweight matches are fantastic. There's stories. They're telling stories. They're doing moves. They're doing everything right, and it's wonderful to see.
Well, I mean, for the most part, I guess for what was it again? To interrupt for the argument about the cruiserweights that you see on TV. Basically, they're just I guess it feels like an extreme form of gymnasium. Basically, it's kind of like choreographed and whatnot because they wanted to pack a lot of things at a small amount of time. I guess you go there.
Mm-hmm.
But on independent wrestling shows, you actually give a little bit more. What was it? You have a little bit more freedom and a lot more leeway, considering the fact that you're not really planning on just doing spot after spot after spot after spot. You can actually have to pace some of them, and you're doing it and sometimes you're even doing it on the fly.
Mm-hmm. Then we had after that awesome cruiserweight match, we had the ESW heavyweight title match. Slade, aka Sebastian Braun, he has a multiple personality gimmick where Slade is just his evil, destructive side. He looks like a 1970s pro wrestler with the chain and the scary mask.
Mm-hmm.
And he's facing against the champion of ESW and still the champion of ESW at this time, the Red Death, Daniel Garcia.
Nice.
What would happen if you decided to put Minoru Suzuki and Shijiro Onotani, or the essences of those two individuals, put them into a blender, mix it up, and the blender spits out the contents in fear? Now mix in a lacrosse/hockey player, junior hockey league player, and you get Daniel Garcia.
Awesome.
Garcia is the most intimidating, charismatic wrestler I have seen, who is a guy who had only been in the business for a few years, and this is post-car wreck. Back in January of 2019, Garcia, Blackwood, Bennett, and Puff were in an unfortunate accident in Buffalo, New York, returning from a show in Montreal. And they had it was a documented thing. It made national news headlines. They had a GoFundMe. They did all of this situation. Their minivan wrecked, crashed into the side of a guardrail head on.
Okay.
And Blackwood and Garcia almost died in the car wreck.
Oof.
Yep. They were in the hospital. It happened. They thankfully survived. They both recovered. They both returned to professional wrestling. It was a situation where my family, we sent cards. We sent goodwill cards to them. The day the incident happened, my mother screams down the steps, "Fizz, are they running? Could you come check on this? I need to make sure that this isn't some kind of pro wrestling angle." Because what ESW and Grapplers Anonymous Pro Wrestling, the training facility responsible for a lot of these wrestlers that have shown up on these cards, they have done a lot of these very realistic angles where it is difficult to tell whether or not they're doing a work shoot or it's some kind of work or anything like that. I look at the photos and I go, no, they don't have the kind of budgets for hospital gowns and hospital beds and I mean, they certainly have the budget for the blood, but I'm not sure they'll be able to rent a hospital space like that. So, it was real, and I confirmed where yes, this is real, and we began organizing ways of helping them. We sent out gift cards. We sent cards to the wrestlers. Thankfully, some of the ESW wrestlers, Brandon in particular, was very helpful in this case. Brandon and Daniel, it's really the great thing about people of the millennial generation is that even in a hospital room, their phone is right there. I mean, when the surgeon comes in and basically says, "Oh, we're going to have to do surgery on your legs. Do we want to remove that phone that's attached to right next to your kneecap?" Like, nope. Keep that there. That's good. That's fine. Yep. Can charge it from here.
Yes, exactly. True.
That was already there. That was already there before the car wreck. So we were able to send.
Planned, don't worry.
We sent them get well cards. And it was a really scary situation for a while there. They thankfully all got better. Puff and Bennett only had like minor injuries. Puff was barely injured at all because he was in the front seat. What happened was there was a side impact into the door.
I see.
And Bennett had to recover from a minor back issue because of the impact of the crash. But everybody recovered. And this was the main event that we wanted to see on this show because we had not seen Garcia at an independent show since about 2018, as it were. I think it was like early 2018. And so we go to the show, and the kids love Garcia. They were chanting, there was like 40 to 70 kids chanting, "Red Death, Red Death, Red Death." It would make your average Russian communist go, "Why are children chanting for red?"
Why are children chanting for us?
So it's like, I mean, if it was Nikita Koloff and the Russians showing up on the show and being booked on this card, they would be very, very confused.
Very, very happy, but
very, very happy, but very, very confused as to why children are chanting for Red Death.
Yeah.
Baby Daniel Garcia was the super baby face in this match.
I deign to think otherwise.
Yeah. So he was in most of the other situations. I think Garcia is technically sort of a millennial heel in ESW, and the trouble is that they needed to make a classic face-heel match, so they put him against Slade. He wanted this match against Slade, and Slade got scared at a couple points from the children, because as established here on Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling, the children that attend these shows are, well, they're kind of psychotic. They chased Rob Sweet out of the venue when he won the STW Heavyweight Championship and basically started a mini riot when he won against Bill Collier.
I had a feeling that's going to happen, yeah.
So, this was a really fun classic face versus monster heel match that had some great spots, a choke slam, Garcia doing some high-flying moves, and ending with the Red Death bomb, power bomb, and was super fun. It was super cool. It was so great to see him again. Then after that, it was the main event. It was the special attraction match. Nunzio of the Full-Blooded Italians with Vince Fowler versus Killer Instinct.
Ooh, okay.
And you better believe that the Killer Instinct theme was blaring through the speakers.
again, I deem to think it isn't. So, you know, with that kind of, what was it again? With that kind of reception from the crowd and whatnot, I hate to think otherwise. So, good on that.
So, traditionally, Mike Skyros has been a babyface in Southern Tier Wrestling, or babyface tweener. This is the first time we got to see him as a heel. He was with his regular partner at the time, Kevin Cartwright, also known as Nasty Kevin. He is a grunge-style heel that normally works in the Rochester, upper state New York territory. And this, ironically, was the next to last match for this team, as Cartwright would then move out of state, breaking up the duo.
Okay.
So he basically stepped away from pro wrestling and around 2019 or so to work a professional job. So this was the next to last match of Killer Instinct. And I was really glad I got to see Skyros in a heel environment. Him, Cartwright, and of course, Super Beast.
Okay.
Super
like
Beast.
He's going to pop up sooner or later.
Super Beast in his black suit. Looking like the lead off hitter for a music band, screaming into his microphone, yelling at the people, calling them fat, ugly, bucktooth, you know.
Every single thing under the sun, yes.
Yeah, every single family-friendly, insult that he could think of, he did, and he did it wonderfully. The crowd hated him. They booed him. Salamanca is one of his favorite places, by the way, to perform, because there's that legitimate heel heat that you get when you perform in a place like this in the middle of nowhere on an Indian reservation. Valor and Nunzio had the traditional babyface. Valor was the babyface isolated by the diabolical duo. Killer Instinct was maniacally evil. Beast, as always, was literally causing the circus tent to fly up into the air from the amount of heat he was generating.
Right.
Nunzio gets the tag in. Babyface on fire. The guy can still work. Great technical wrestler. Always had great matches. And funny thing about this particular match is that I took photos of it. And, I take photos of all the matches I do go to. And I was like, K&A Knight's going to love this. So I sent him the photos of this particular match. The best photos that I could get from this. Yes, K&A Knight. I sent him the photos of this particular match because he is a former ECW mutant and he attended shows in 2000. And Nunzio was a guy who was on those shows and he likes the full-blooded Italians and their work. So it was like a no-brainer for me. I'm like, here, let me show you this show of Nunzio going in a circus tent facing against Killer Instinct.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the great close the show and make everybody happy. End of that particular show.
I had a feeling it is. Make everyone go home happy. Yeah.
And so post-match, we said hi to Daniel. My mother was really happy to see him all right after the car wreck.
Okay.
He had actually did an Uncharted Wrestling taping for Beyond, and they had just gotten to the venue like a couple hours earlier. And, as I said, I wanted to go to ESW because I wanted to see Brandon's home promotion. And because ESW is Brandon Thurston's home promotion. It was where Brandon Thurston really made a name for himself in wrestling for a number of years. And this is a promotion that he's helped build. And so we got to be, and Brandon, it's because of the fact Brandon is very serious about his work. If he is a heel at a show at a wrestling show, he is so traditional about his heel gimmick that he doesn't come out until the very end of the show, like 30 minutes after. He is
to
that
keep
he
kayfabe, basically.
yeah, he keeps kayfabe. He keeps kayfabe. He's like, dedicated to that. Here in this situation, he isn't booked on the card. So he's instead in a supervisory, main director role where Brandon dresses up basically like, what would basically be called? But imagine if Daniel Bryan decided to dress up like a hobo.
Oh, okay.
Enter incognito Thurston. Trying to disguise himself, and there's a fan. The fan that came there was like a fan who noticed him. Was like, is that Brandon? And Brandon ducks back into the station, the trailer station that they have set up.
Yeah.
For their backstage gorilla position area.
Yeah.
So he spends the entire show in this area after he and Garcia get to the venue because they had just done a Beyond TV taping. The night before, I believe.
Okay.
And they drove to Salamanca, and Thurston in incognito mode is helping run the show while the matches are going on. So he says hi. It was so fun. I was very happy to be able to go to an ESW show for the first time. It was a really wild, really chaotic experience that was super fun. The crowd was so energetic. That's the key thing about these free shows. The crowd, even the Sherman one with its limited participation of the crowd, the venues were always rocking. The crowd was always loud. It was always noisy. It's so fun to go to a local independent wrestling show where everybody is a ruckus, cheering the faces, booing the heels, and all these wonderful antics happening.
Yeah, definitely. Because these kind of shows are more, how would I say, closer to home, I guess, if you want to go there. So basically, you can basically just react however you want to react, within reason, of course.
Yeah.
Within reason. So it's great that some of them are still sticking to this kind of deal. Yeah.
So Sovereignty Wrestling and ESW have not run shows since the pandemic began, and it's very likely that they will not be running shows until at least middle or end of the year at the best of times. Possibly in the beginning of 2022. It's a realistic time. So unless the venues are running at full capacity, it's very likely. There was recently an article published that talked about the situation with ESW. They're basically saying that we can only afford to run shows if it is a full capacity show. So look for stuff like, for example, Daddy App Productions, which is a part of Grapplers Anonymous. They have been doing shows at the training venue, online shows on Facebook Live, showcasing matches. There's recently a match between Myung Jade and Daniel Garcia that's been showcased on the Twitters by Daddy App Productions and Grapplers Anonymous. And it's an example of what you have to do in the modern era right now, in the after the before times, of being able to say that, hey, wrestling is still here. We're still doing shows. And even though that all this chaos and insanity that has happened over the last year I view it partially as a good thing, because, okay, now you know. Now you know that these things are happening, whether it be speaking out or some, issues with the promoters or some kind of financial issues. You now know that these things exist, and now there are things you can do to correct them. The Western New York territory has been in a rebuild since about 2016-17. They got a head start on everybody else. This area has a lot of incredibly talented wrestlers, has a lot of incredibly talented ideas. There's a lot of creativity in this area. Angles that would normally not work on, say, for instance, the main roster, work here. And it is so wonderful to see that happen. It's like, you go to it's like going to a Japanese indie show. It's got that same kind of like really
Yeah,
high energy, high vibrant atmosphere.
yeah. I have a feeling it has that kind of feeling. Yeah.
Hmm.
From what you're basically describing the whole thing. Yeah, it feels it feels as if it has that kind of up close and personal kind of feel. So there's that too.
Hmm. So, yeah, that was a deep dive into the last free shows on the independent scene here in Western New York in 2019. I had these free shows on the backlog, and I wanted to talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
On this edition of the show, a return to the regularly scheduled wacky. We've had plenty of wacky antics on this show that has gone for, and I'm looking at the live sticker right now. Senju, we've been going for over 2 hours and 29 minutes and now 47 seconds.
How did we push it that far? Well, how did you push it that far? Your last show is like what? Only an
An
hour and a half, if I
hour,
remember correctly.
hour and 38 minutes. But I
Mm-hmm.
figured that there might be extra time that we need to talk for the segments that we were going to talk about with the New Japan, AEW, and other segments, miscellaneous segments.
Yes.
Um, but folks, once again, this is been the second show of this Wacky World of Wrestling doubleheader. The April Fool's
Mm-hmm.
show, which was a great return to form for me, getting the rust off, getting the jitters off, and doing a show um, to talk before doing a show like this was really great
Uh-huh.
for me. And
Uh-huh.
here we are. I'm here with Senju. We're talking about professional wrestling, having a great conversation, and I get to describe my local wrestling scene to somebody who's never seen it before. Or knows some about it from looking at pictures of a giant 7 foot tall wrestler.
Yep. From a giant 7 foot tall wrestler. Oh my god, he's so big. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The only word I can describe it. Oh my god, he's so big. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Garcia is going to be a standout on these indie wrestling matches because he recently won the Limitless Championship. And
Okay.
also, he's going to be competing in a number of matches Mania weekend in Tampa.
Oh.
Yeah, he's got a lot of very good specialty matches against a wide variety of performers on these shows. So, yeah, a lot of the indie wrestlers here are still working. They're still wrestling, some of whom, have to go to far reaching places like Altoona, Pennsylvania to work shows. But, we're getting through things. And I think in actuality, and this is something I've said before, the pandemic. The pandemic actually, I think, was a really great thing for a number of wrestlers. It allowed them to heal from long-term injuries, and it also allowed them to do side projects.
Yeah.
As I said earlier in the show, Brandon Thurston is the wrestling MVP of 2020 for his economic work with WrestleNomics. WrestleNomics Radio has been
Yeah.
an enjoyable ride to see his work over the last year and a half. Now that he's able to dedicate time to doing extensive economic research on the world of professional wrestling for the statistician people
Mm-hmm.
like us, because both me and Senju have looked at
Mm-hmm.
Brandon's work. It is
Yes.
wonderful.
It is.
Mhm.
I'm definitely interested in his work basically now, especially now because the more I go into the more nitty gritty aspects of it, the more uh, I need to find things that are easily quantifiable, basically, and basically in bite-sized pieces that has been easily given, and stuff like what Brendan Thurston posted. I think what he posted on Twitter about the ups and downs of AEW's basically ratings and whatnot. So in comparison to AEW, NXT, those are always good. And as well, it also gives me some more ammo for just basically just talk about stuff.
Yeah. So, yeah, WrestleNomics Radio. has been a great economic resource for the world of professional wrestling, especially as an education tool for people who don't know about the world of professional wrestling from an economic perspective, to understand, people who are non-wrestling fans to understand the wrestling industry and what exactly pitfalls and challenges you have to deal with, is really informative and very helpful.
Yes.
And that has been one of the benefits of this 2020. If there have been positives from this pandemic, WrestleNomics Radio has definitely been one of them.
Uh-huh.
And now seeing wrestlers like Big Time Bill Collier being booked in AEW, again in AEW Dark and AEW Elevation. He has a match next week against Hangman Adam Page. And Garcia doing the run-through on the Tampa Mania Week shows on the Indies. Should be really fun to see what Buffalo does next. You know? And the Buffalo Territory and the Western New York Territory in general doing really great things. And, you know, and this, folks, is coming from a 100% genuine place, because nobody's asked me to say these lines. I've said them myself.
Number one and number two, you're from there, so and you've watched it basically. So, yeah.
I watch it, but I'm also I'm objective about it. I think that the matches are good, but if there are matches that struggle and if there are matches that have issues with them, I will talk about them on this show.
Exactly.
So yeah, folks, I think we're going to wrap this one up because it's been 2:35:42. So MDS, where can they find you on the social media things?
You can find me on les social media on le blue Twitter, basically. Mr. Dr. Senju, that's MRDR Senju, of course, where I talk a lot of, basically just stuff and nonsense and whatnot on there. There's no such thing as anything that's off topic, but mostly, my Twitter is basically just my personal ramblings and utterings and whatnot. So there's that. You can also find me on Shooting the Breeze, which is going to be later tonight, I guess, my time, or basically tomorrow morning my time. But other than that, yeah, you can catch basically my main mode of communication is on Twitter, basically, or on Discord, if you ever get the chance to find me on Discord. But in any case.
Okay, folks, you can find me on the Bird Thing, aka Twitter, at Fizzpatrick14. That's FIZZPATRICK14 at William Fitzpatrick. I'm frequently on the Bird Thing posting the podcast the last couple of weeks. There's going to be some other things that I'm going to be doing over the next few weeks, like opening up the Wacky World of Wrestling Twitter account, which I've had on standby mode for the last several months, which will also be posting these episodes if you want to look at them. I'm also on, I'm also an occasional contributor over on Cage Side, where I occasionally do commentary and postings. I plan on probably upskilling that a little bit very soon once my schedule, settles down a bit. Because, folks, this has been a completely new experience for me over the last 2 days, being able to use a new streaming software, new streaming setup, and it's been a really fun experience over the last 48 hours to do 2 streams over a combined about 4 hours in length. Or so, 3.5, 4 hours in length. And to do a show tonight with Senju has been just super fun. And I hope you folks have enjoyed this deep dive into the indies and the personal thoughts and opinions of a person from the land of the rising sun in Kyoto, Japan, about the world of professional wrestling and all of the insanity and wacky worldness that has come from it. So, for MDS and myself, and the old man who's probably going to be wondering, Senju, what the heck did you get yourself into this time?
On record, I had no idea.
This has been episode 65 of Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling, a return to the regularly scheduled wacky programming. Have a good day, have a good day or night, ladies and gentlemen, and I will see you next week, next Friday. I don't know what exactly I planned, but considering the fact that it's Maniac Week is upon us, I'll probably be talking about WWE and what Satan has been up to, and the builds and feuds for the showcase of the Immortals.
Sounds interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
WrestleMania season is upon us. And a very subdued WrestleMania season, but they're doing a show at the pirate ship. And other topics in the world of professional wrestling, because there always is something that's always happening at every week in pro wrestling. So for MDS, myself, William Fizzpatrick, have a good day or night, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll see you on the next edition of Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling, episode 66. Bye, folks.
Bye-bye.